Hi everyone, Jen Cox from the Suburban Newspaper. And given October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I wanted to do something that had a little bit more of an impact and had some meaning. So I reached out to my very good friend, Joy Rodgers. She is not only a dear friend of mine, but she is a breast cancer survivor. She blogged for us during her battle with breast cancer, and those blogs are still available over at thesuburban.com. And she was gracious enough to sit down, tell us about her journey, and a little bit more about what she went through during that entire process. Here's what she had to say. Tell me the story. How old were you when you were diagnosed? How did you discover the diagnosis? How did that kind of unfold?
So I had just turned 35. And I, the year before, had a breast reduction. So it's not like I had like lumpy, saggy, weird boobs. I had perfect boobs. They had just been redone. And I was like feeling a little bit weird one day. Like maybe my bra's old, maybe my underwire is poking me. So I came home from work and that night I checked and I found a lump and I started panicking, obviously. And made an appointment with my family doctor. Um, and we actually, like the morning after I found my lump, we're getting on a plane to go to LA for a family event. So in LA, the entire time I was just like freaking out and oh my God, like I don't want to waste another minute. Came home, saw my GP. So Gabby and I came home early because she had a dance competition out of town. So we were flying home from LA. We were in town for 24 hours. Then we were going to Charlevoix. And so in that 24 hours home, I saw my GP and she felt it. And she's like, I definitely feel something. I don't know. It's kind of along your scar line where you had your breast reduction. Let's get it checked out. Scar tissue shouldn't pop out a year later. Let's get this checked. So I said, okay. Um, and with it, if you go through the hospital at the time, so wait times are a lot worse from what I hear now. I think since COVID, but at the time it was about a 3 to 4 week wait to get my mammogram and my ultrasound. And I had a friend that was just finishing her cancer. And she was like, no, money is made for doctors and lawyers and not for fancy purses and cars. So you need to see a doctor, spend that money and go private and see the doctor. So that's what I did. I made an appointment with a private clinic and they saw me like within 24 hours of calling, they were able to see me. And my husband was like, "Do you want me to come with you?" And I was like, "No, like I'm sure it's nothing. Like I was in such good shape. I took such good care of myself. It's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. It's fine. It's fine." I went by myself and the doctor was like, "Hi, how can I help you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have a lump on my breast. I want to get it checked out. I'm sure it's nothing, la la la." La." And so we started with an ultrasound. And I remember my friend telling me, you can't get a definitive answer without a biopsy. So you're feeling a lump, you need to push for that biopsy. So I was like, okay, so here I kind of have in my mind like that I'm going to have to be pushing for this biopsy. And so the doctor starts with an ultrasound and we're chatting. And he was like, such a cool guy, so sweet. And we're chatting. And he starts the ultrasound. And all of a sudden he's like, hmm. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, there's something there. I'm like, I know that's why I came. And he's like, no, no, like there's something there. I'm like, what? So he like presses this button on the ultrasound, which does like this 3D and shows colors now. And he's like, you see all that red? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's blood flow. He's like, blood flow is usually indicative of something growing, like a cancerous lump. And I was like, what? So he's like, yes. So I'm like, okay, can I get a biopsy? And he's like, no, Joy, you don't understand. Like, you're not leaving here without a biopsy. We can't let you leave without a biopsy. Like, it's quite evident what this is. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, we're going to finish the ultrasound. You're going to go get your mammogram just so that we have a mammogram on file. And then we're doing the biopsy. Like, okay. He's like, I actually am going to biopsy it twice because it's a large enough mass and I want to make sure I get good tissue. And I was like, oh my God. So I go into the waiting room for my mammogram and I'm freaking out. And I'm texting my husband and he's like, do you want me to come down there? I was like, no, you know what? Like, I'm downtown. By time he gets in the car, drives there, looks for parking, like it's gonna be done. Like, let me just do this. I'll call you when I'm done. We'll meet at home. And I'm sitting in the waiting room and I was like, oh my God, like I'm in this pink gown. I'm wearing pink scrubs today, but I'm in this pink gown and they're playing like all this like wind beneath my wings music and all this like I'm in a typical cancer commercial. Like I can't believe this is happening. And I do the mammogram and then they go for the biopsy and he got a nurse to come hold my hand and kind of stay with me during the biopsy. And he's like, we'll give you a call in 72 hours. It's like, okay. And he's like, maybe start thinking if you know of an oncologist you want to see. I was like, okay. So I texted my friend right away and I'm like, what's the name of your oncologist? Because I knew that she was very happy with him and she had done her research. So she tells me who the oncologist was. And so I tell this doctor, this is who I want to see. He's like, okay, we'll speak in 72 hours. So of course those 72 hours were hell. And that's when we started kind of preparing both sets of parents, my parents and his parents, of what's going on and what it looks like. And then the doctor called me and he tells me, we have the preliminary results, and it is breast cancer. It's aggressive breast cancer. We're going to put the requisition in with the hospital. They will give you a call in a few days. And that's, you'll be followed there and they'll follow up with the treatment and the surgeries and all that kind of stuff. Um, and so I had a neighbor who was actually an oncologist, not a breast oncologist, but she's an oncologist. And so I showed her all the paperwork. They didn't have all the preliminary results in. So we knew that it was breast cancer. We knew that it was aggressive, but we didn't know which type of breast cancer it was, if it was fueled by hormones or what it was. We just had some of the preliminary info. She helped on her end work her magic. We got me into the oncologist of my choice. Um, and then even from there, I was kind of, I guess I didn't grasp the gravity of it at that point. And I was like, okay, well, I have a lump. Hopefully they could just like remove the lump. Maybe I'll need a little bit of radiation and I could like go on with my life. And by time so I actually first you meet with the surgeon and then the oncologist, like the oncological surgeon, and he's kind of the one that makes that initial call. Um, and he looked at the type of cancer I had, which is triple negative breast cancer, which is aggressive and fast growing and hard to treat and all these things. And he's like, you're going to go through 16 chemotherapies. And then at that point, we're going to make a decision about your surgery. We're going to do some genetic testing. But we're pretty much, they were throwing me into treatment right away. He said, you'll be called in about 2 to 3 weeks to start your treatment. So I was like, oh my God, I can't just get like a lumpectomy, some radiation. He's like, no, no, no. He's like, your type of cancer, we need more. Okay. And then, so, we hadn't told the kids yet. At this point, I wanted to have a chemotherapy date. I wanted to have more questions. I knew, Zach was little at the time.
How
They
old were
both
your
were.
kids? You have two.
So Zach was 3 and Gabby was 6. Um, but she was friends with my friend's daughter, my friend who had just gone through it. So she knew what cancer was and she knew the hair loss and she knew kind of all that stuff. So I wanted to make sure I had answers without just coming and saying like mommy has cancer, end of story. So we waited, we didn't tell the kids just yet. I went back to work. I came back to work and also my friend's treatment was different than mine. My friend had chemo once every 3 weeks. So I was like, oh, okay, like I'll still be able to work, all this kind of stuff. And then I found out that my chemos were going to be weekly. And that because I work with sick children, that I was not allowed to work because I'd be
Because you're a school nurse,
immunocompromised.
right?
So I'd be taken off of work. And I was sitting at my desk one day and the phone rings and they're like, you're starting treatment on Tuesday. I was like, what? What are you talking about? They said it'd be 2 to 3 weeks. And they're like, a spot opened up and it's yours. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And my friend was sitting next to me and he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you need to take this spot. Like, you're getting in. And I was in such shock. I couldn't believe that, like, all of a sudden my life had done such a 360. Um, and that's it. And I started treatment. So I was diagnosed April 28th, 2016. I started chemo May 16th, um, and finished chemo October 18th. Um, so I just passed my 9 years of finishing chemo. And then throughout my chemo, we got the results of the genetic testing, and it turned out that I did have a genetic breast cancer. I had the BRCA1 gene mutation, um, which to some people I think is concerning. To me, it was a relief. To me, it gave me a reason why, because I felt I was, I was eating well, I was working out, I wasn't smoking, I very casually drank, not much. I was doing everything right, so I couldn't understand why I got it. So having a genetic cancer was comforting to me, and at the same time, knowledge is power. And if I could prevent my kids, my niece and nephew, future generations, if I had to be the scapegoat so nobody else in my family gets cancer, then fine, bring it on and I'll take it. So for me, it was, I was happy to hear that I had this gene because I had my reason and I'm able to prevent it, for future generations. And so with that, because I had the BRCA gene mutation and had breast cancer, I had to have a double mastectomy. Um, so I did that. And also, so now it wasn't just a lumpectomy anymore. And I had to make the decision of a hysterectomy, which was a no-brainer for me. I didn't want to touch this ever again. Um, I have amazing doctors. I've always been surrounded by amazing doctors. So even with genetics, they told me they were going to set me up with a gynecological oncologist. And I was like, no, I want my doctor to do it. My doctor that saw me through my pregnancies, my doctor that I know, he's a source of comfort for me. He's somebody that knew me before the cancer me. And I reached out to him and he wrote me back immediately, told me he'd be the one to do my surgery. He'd be happy to do it. Um, and so chemo finished October 18th. I had a few weeks break to regain my strength. I had my double mastectomy on November 24th. And then I got a phone call a few weeks later that, all of my margins came out clear and there's no more cancer. So even though I got that phone call in December, we consider the day of my surgery, November 24th, to be my cancer-free day. And so after that, for the next year, I had 2 more breast surgeries. I had my hysterectomy. But that was just kind of like, that was fine. That was easy. It was icing on the cake. And so November 24th was my cancer-free day.
Wow. 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 What you went through. Now, one thing that you didn't address was breast cancer in your family.
There was no history. There
Wow.
was nothing. There was
Okay.
nothing, nothing, nothing.
Okay.
They
Going
did the
forward,
genetic testing because of my age, because of how aggressive my cancer was, and because of my religious ethnic background. Um, that's why they did genetic testing, but it was not in my family.
okay. And then what do you do going forward because you do have kids? How do you stay on top of it with them?
So it's a decision that they need to make on their own,
Okay.
once they're over 18. Um, I haven't discussed it with genetics or with their, pediatrician in a few years. So maybe things have changed. I know the information I was originally given is that they typically don't test before about the age of 21 because they want them to finish puberty and kind of all that kind of stuff. But as of 18, they can make their own decisions if they want to get tested or not. Um, and so it's always, for my son, it's a little less, but for my daughter, I've kind of always tried to show the positive and, she will get the opportunity to, if she is a carrier of the gene, then she will get the opportunity, if she chooses to have a double mastectomy, and reconstruction to dramatically reduce her chances. If they don't get tested, then regardless, they'll be watched closely. Um, and then, if and when she gets to the point that she wants to have surgeries, whether it's, her mastectomy, whether it's having a hysterectomy after having kids, whatever her decision may be, she'll make those decisions once she's old enough.
Okay.
Which is
Okay.
coming up, actually. I mean, she's 16 years old, so we're getting closer and closer. But those will be decisions that she makes.
So we were talking earlier about you went private and you kind of have to be your own health advocate. And okay, so we're in our 40s. And what advice would you have for women that are maybe watching this and thinking, well, we have this system that's so flawed, like, and not have a negative take on it? What can we do to be proactive with our own health? I guess is my question.
So, I mean, I think every system has its flaws. I think our medical system is so backlogged. There's so much going on. And we are seeing more and more people being diagnosed and being diagnosed younger. So it's unfortunate that there is such a backlog. I think, um, since my diagnosis, I have religiously been posting on my social media and speaking to friends, to feel it on the first, know your body, know you're normal. If something feels wrong, if you have a concern, don't wait. Don't give it 5 months, 6 months to see if it's going to change. Go get checked out right away. It can really make a difference. Um, it can never happen to me is not a thing. It can happen no matter how much money you have, no matter how fit you are, whether there's a history in your family or not. It really, cancer doesn't discriminate, and it can happen and it will happen to everybody and anybody. It's not like they pick and choose who to give cancer to. It just, it happens.
Yeah.
And so you've got to react quickly. You need to advocate for yourself if you feel the need to have these tests done, to have a mammogram at 40 instead of 45, if that's what you need, whatever it may be. But you need to check your body. We need to, when I do my feel it on the first post, I always say, it's time to feel it on the first, check your breast, your testicles, your moles, your mouth, note any abnormalities. So, we need to be checking our moles regularly. Their skin cancer, you know, your mouth, your gums, if you're a smoker, there's so much. I mean, our body is all these different organs put together, and it's a well-oiled machine, and sometimes part of that machine breaks down, and whether it comes out as a disease of some sort, a cancer of some sort, whatever it is, you need to be in charge of your own body, and you need to look out for your own body. And even now, GPs won't see everybody regularly once a year if they don't feel a need for it, if you're generally healthy. So you really need to you need to know your body. You need to know your body. And if something is wrong, you need to get it checked out and jump through whatever hoops you need to do, whether it's walking into the hospital and going into the emergency room because you are leaking from one of your nipples, which is a sign, whether it's going private. We have some beautiful private clinics. even if you get that appointment in through the public system and you have to wait 3 weeks to a month, you know what? If it goes away, if your lump or whatever it is goes away, then fine, you cancel your appointment and there's going to be somebody else taking that spot. But you can't wait.
I think that's so important. I love that you do the feel it on the first post, and I always try to share them. It's such a great reminder because on the first of the month, it's just that's what you do, right? You check everything out. And I think it's really important to stress too that men can get breast cancer and
Oh,
men should go and get checked. I think that us ladies are very used to getting poked and prodded because it starts at a young age. We got to get all the parts checked, but sometimes men wait until they feel sick and they don't go for the checkups. And luckily, my husband is not in that category because I'm on him about that. But yeah, I think the guys need to go and get checked too and keep up on those things. But all right, this is great, Joy. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something heartfelt with somebody who has been through it. I think it's wonderful that the Quebec Breast Cancer Foundation can give me stats and all of those things. I think it means something completely different when you look somebody in the face that's gone through it. And you are such a beautiful speaker in the way that you tell your story. So I just knew you would be the perfect person to just, I wanted
thank
something
you.
really powerful, to move people. And your story is so moving. You're such a warrior. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Joy. I so appreciate this. I know you're a busy gal.